Let's get underway. I've got a few things to get through. Then we've got a special guest to join us this afternoon. We haven't got a coaching video. I'll introduce who we've got on this afternoon very shortly. But some milestones to acknowledge this week. A couple of goal umpires, Tyson Rosa and James Turner doing their 50th. A goal umpire, Flynn Hall, doing his 100th. And Josh Simons, Tony's lad, doing the 100th game on the boundary. And the big field umpire milestones, Chris Rash doing his 400th. So well done, Rashy. Been a great career so far. So well done. Now, a couple of issues that we need to cover off from the weekend's games. Just we had a couple of dangerous tackles, and most of you would know the process, but I'm just going to remind you, because the difficulties in actually working out what's not a free kick, what's just a free kick, what's a yellow card, what's a red card. If you feel that it's a really bad, serious, dangerous tackle, no doubt it's a red card, we'll back you in. So do the red card on the spot. But if you're not sure, and it can be really hard to judge, you are able to just issue a yellow card and then contact me after the game for a upgrade. And we can look at video, if there's video, ask for witness accounts, look at it a bit closer to work out whether we do upgrade it or not. So we had one on the weekend where the umpires actually tried to contact me at halftime. I was umpiring, so I couldn't take the call. They decided to upgrade at halftime, which isn't really the process. If you want to give a red card, do it on the spot. If you actually want to upgrade, let's have a chat about after the game. In the end, the one they wanted to upgrade, we looked at the video and it was a clearly dangerous tackle. So we would have been happy with that being a red card on the spot. But if you don't issue a red card on the spot, it's understandable because of the nature of dangerous tackles. And we can talk about it after the game and then upgrade it during the week. But yeah, just to repeat that, if you think it's a really bad, dangerous tackle, do it at the time, issue the red card at the time. Otherwise, just issue the yellow, and then we can discuss it after the game. Now, here's the change from what we've said in the past, in that if you are wanting to upgrade, and it is only for dangerous tackles, it's not for other offences. If you're wanting to upgrade, you'll need to tell the clubs on the day, or the club in question for the player that's going to be investigated, that you're going to be putting forward something to the league for them to look at, because we don't want clubs from here on in finding out on Monday that suddenly they didn't think there was a red card and then it ends up being a red card. So if you're wanting to look at upgrading it, have a discussion with me after the game, but just notify the club that that's what you're going to be doing. Does that make sense? All right. Now, here's something that I reckon I mentioned 2 or 3 times a season, and I'll put it out in the coaching notes. Please read it if you haven't heard this before, but most of you have. When there's a red card issued, there is a question regarding the level of impact, and it basically can be low, medium, high, severe. The rating is really important. It decides how many weeks the player will end up getting if they're found guilty. And so it's really important we get that right. And the tribunal reference manual has a very clear way of grading it. So low is where there's minimal or no impact on the player. Player continues the majority of the match and suffered no or minimal ongoing issues. So if you think it's a really bad hit, or like it's a red card that you want to grade as medium high, you can't do that if the player plays on and there's no injury. It has to be low in those cases. So when you get to medium, there's going to be some impact on the player. High is a major impact on the player, and severe, it's like they're being carried off and taken to hospital. So I'll send that out in the coaching notes. Please have a good look at that. If you're any doubt after a game when you're inputting the red card, please give us a call before you input it. I'm getting a bit sick of having to change it on Mondays. The umpires have done the right thing in issuing a red card, but I'm getting it almost weekly where they're putting the wrong impact in, and then we have to muck around on Monday with changing that. But it is important that we get that right. So I'll put that out on the notes. Couple other things to mention. Pat Lysop did an absolutely amazing job on the weekend. We had, unfortunately, a young umpire who I'm not happy with, who will miss the next month because I'm suspending him, basically. Didn't show up to his B grade game at Eastern Park. Decided to notify me at quarter time of a B grade game, which wasn't good enough. And so he was meant to be umpiring with Reinhard Switter, and so Reinhard, instead of having to do a game on his own, Pat Lysett, who was there for the A and C grade games, stepped up and did the B grade game with Rhino, which meant that Pat did the C grade, the B grade, and the A grade all in the one day, which is a massive effort. So thanks a lot for Pat for stepping up and helping out in that situation. And Rob Cain, I spoke to Rob earlier today. Many of you know that he's suffered a health challenge this year and found out that he's got a type of cancer that he's been having to deal with. He's starting chemotherapy next week. He's actually really relieved that that's happening because he's really keen to get on and get the treatment, and he's optimistic about how that treatment will help him. But yeah, we're just wishing Rob the best wishes the next couple of months while he goes through the chemo. And one last thing, there's a life members dinner that the association have sent me an email about. I'll forward that out with their coaching notes tonight. So if you're a Umpires Association life member, there's a luncheon coming up on Saturday, June the 19th. So I'll send out details about that. Okay, now I've got someone to invite along to the Zoom meeting, and I've approached some of the South Australian field umpires who are on the AdFL panel, and we've got one of them coming on tonight's Zoom meeting. I thought you guys may be able to learn something from these guys, and it would be of interest. So we're really lucky tonight. I'm just looking for, here he is online, Lee Housen. Lee, do you want to unmute yourself, mate? And we'll welcome you to the Zoom.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Now, we have interviewed you before. I reckon it was a couple of years ago you came along to one of our coaching sessions. And maybe if you just want to give guys who don't know you, weren't there that night, just a bit of a rundown of your career and how it progressed.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started a Coromandel Valley kid, so I grew up in the hills and started off in like the primary school stuff there, and then made my way out to Sandfell footy, and had quite a few years in the under 17s and under 18s and stuff there. And then obviously progressed to senior footy, and then was given an opportunity at AFL level at the start of 2017 season. And so, yeah, this is now my fifth season of AFL footy that we're going into now.
Now, Lee, I didn't hear any of that because there's a special general meeting here at the league office tonight, and I was getting a whole bunch of people come through the league office. So I've just jumped in John Kernhand's office so I can actually get away from all the voices. So I'm assuming you gave a nice little rundown. And did you tell the guys how many AFL games you've done so far?
No. This is 73 this week. And fantastic. I only know that because that's the same amount that Shane Harris did. So hopefully, as long as I don't cock it up this weekend, I'll go past him next weekend, which will be good. I'll send him a text. So
I take it you're just knocking over these milestones. You got mine pretty early on, then you went past Richard Williams and Shane Harris. Is the next one you want to go past?
No, they're the main ones. After Shane, there's a while until I knock off any South Aussies. So, yeah. I've got to be at it for a while now. This is the last one for a while.
Yeah, nice. And you had the big Friday night game last Friday night. That was a massive appointment.
Yeah, a big appointment to get. So, yeah, I felt it all went pretty well. Feedback said a few came up with a few interesting free kicks that I should have got. But, no, for the most part, it was good fun. It was a real good game till half time, and then it sort of fell away a bit. But nothing we can do about that. So
now I was only watching bits and pieces. I was out and about. Were you down the end where the Shea Bolton mark occurred?
No, it was the other end of the ground. But it was good. Like, it was seriously high, and like, it's cool when like, I saw it obviously, but like from afar. But then obviously they kept showing different angles on the replay, and however many people were there screaming with excitement every time after that. So yeah, it was cool to be out there when something like that happens. That's for sure.
A really interesting decision from the game, and again, I don't know if you're in control, but I'm sure you'd be across the discussion about it. Was a Joel Selwood contest for the ball where he went in and turned himself sideways. Is that you?
Yeah, that was one of my errors. Thanks for that, Colin.
Well,
no, it's a hard one. I didn't see the contact, and then I've seen Mansell like throw his head back like this. And so I think I actually, through the comms, I said no, because I've just seen what to me looked like a ridiculous of like throwing your head back. And because I've said no, that sort of spooked the other umpire out of blowing his whistle, because he saw it clearly. He heard me say no, so he thought, shit, Lee's obviously at a different angle, so didn't blow his whistle. So yeah, it goes down as an error, but not one that they're concerned about. So just sort of one of the however many errors we have each week that they just go, oh, well, if you do everything right and you see it wrong or you can't see it, they go, well, we just wear them. That's okay.
Well, it's such an interesting situation. They did the match day review panel did rule that there was nothing to see here, because at the end of the day, Joel Selwood has actually gone in to go for the ball in the right way, hasn't he?
Yeah, that was our thoughts on the matter. So that's what the umpiring department thought. They said, yeah, well, obviously we want the high contact paid because there's high contact, but wasn't a big deal. Yeah.
We've had similar instances here, and that's why it was discussed here in the league office today, where we've had high contact, but nothing further has happened because of that situation. Basically, the guy that got the high contact has contributed because they're pretty much led with their head. So I think we came to the same decision that a high tackle would probably be paid, but no report. So good to hear that we're on the same page there. And really, at the end of the day, I say to coaches all the time, no matter how good the umpire is, there are always going to be errors because of the nature of the game. I haven't yet seen a umpire at our level with a video review get through with no errors. Have you ever seen that at AdFL level?
No, I've had one game where they came back with 0 errors. It was North Melbourne and Adelaide last year on the Gold Coast, and it might as well have been an under-15s game. It was that easy. There was no one there. It was like the two shittest teams I've ever seen. So I came away with 0 errors, but I picked up a few when I watched it back. So I think I was lucky that day. Yeah.
So one question I'm interested in asking you, back when I did my 3 years at AFL, there was no social media. There was the scrutiny, while it was pretty big, was nothing like it is these days. How do you cope with that sort of things?
Yeah, I actually enjoy it. I like, if people want to send me whatever crap, go for it. It doesn't bother me at all. Others are different. So some people have deleted their social media accounts entirely. They don't have anything. Others have it on very private, so you can't easily find them. To be honest, people can send whatever they want. It doesn't bother me. If anything, I'm going to get a laugh out of it. So whatever. But
So they pretty much say however you want to deal with it, you deal with it. Or is there any advice from the AFL?
No, yeah. So there's certainly protocols. So they prefer, obviously, that we don't engage with anybody. So we don't. I see some crap on Facebook where I'd love to give my 2 cents, but I don't. So yeah, just don't engage. And then obviously if it, half a dozen times a year you get something which is, completely out of line, and then we're expected to forward it on to Integrity, and they follow it on from there with the police and whoever else. So yeah, that happens too often, to be honest. Like once every 2 or 3 weeks you get something where you just, holy shit, like why would someone say that or whatever. So but it is what it is. I don't lose any sleep from it, that's for sure.
It's probably a good time just to remind the guys that are on the call and those that are watching about our social media expectations is that that really once you're an umpire, you're supporting umpires at all levels, and that means not getting on and criticising AFL umpires. There have been known, and Lee, I'm sure you know only too well, community umpires who feel like they're entitled to have a crack at AFL umpires. Just a reminder to everyone that that's just not acceptable, because we all make mistakes, and we really should be supportive. Anything to say on that one?
No, I went and umpired an under-12s game last week, and part of a community umpiring round. It is seriously tough. But yeah, I'm firmly in the camp that I won't publicly say anything negative about an umpiring decision or umpires. Like, I know how hard it is, and yeah, until you've umpired at AFL level, I can't explain just how difficult it is. You know, like it's next level. And like you say about camera angles, I mean, we've got 15 camera angles, and you know, they'll show the one that makes you look like an idiot. You know, they don't show you the other 14 where you go, that's an all right decision. You know, that's just the name of the game. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm in the same camp as you, though. I'll never bash an umpire online, that's for sure.
Yeah, good messaging. So we do have some young umpires in the group, some that have ambitions to really go places. You were really made to wait your turn, and you did 6 sample grand finals. You know, it looked like at one stage you weren't going to give that opportunity. So maybe just outline a bit of that, the patience that's required to get to the top level.
Yeah, well, it's like anything, I suppose. You know, I came through the grades very quickly and then sort of got stuck at league level for a long time. So, you know, I probably did grand finals early that I didn't deserve. And then, you know, when I probably did deserve a crack at AFL level, it wasn't coming. So it's just like anything. It swings and roundabouts. You'll get a go eventually. You just got to keep knocking the door down and keep working on things. You know, there's still things I do now, and I cringe when I watch it back. I think I could do that so much better. You know, like, you're always learning. So, it's just trying to constantly get better and chip away. And, you know, there's always something you can learn from another umpire, whether it's, you know, a younger umpire or a senior one. Just try to keep getting better all the time, really. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Now, I know there would be guys on the line that would have questions, so I'm not sure what's going to come this way. But you know, Lee's kindly made himself available today to answer some of those questions. So feel free to fire a question at him. See if we don't get 20 people at all once jumping in. But if you've got something you'd like to ask Lee, please unmute yourself now.
I'll have a crack, Cole, if that's all right. Lee, great to see. I've followed your progress. I think I coached your brother in basketball, and you were refereeing basketball when you were about 9 years old. So it's been a great journey. Love seeing your work. Can you just touch a little bit now on where AFL umpires are? Are you working full-time as an umpire? Have you got part-time work? And I'd be interested in what the future might hold as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're definitely still part-time. We've gone back to 1 training night a week, which seems ridiculous, but because of COVID and all these other things, they tried these new things. So Tuesdays now essentially are 2:30 to about 8:30 at night. They have us for the whole sort of half day. But interestingly enough, now we don't actually do any running at training anymore. So all of our programs are sent to us. It's all very personalized. If you're feeling flat or you're feeling good, you can do more or less depending. And then we just have sort of like 5 boxes we have to hit from a physical performance point of view every week. So, and everything's GPS. So they're all runnings off site, which has sort of been a big change. And then, Tuesdays is obviously, you know, your coaching and all that. And then from a work point of view, I mean, I work for myself. We have a lot of people that do work for themselves, just purely on the basis of it's more flexible. Footy can throw you anywhere at any time. You know, last week they were talking about sending blokes to Adelaide for 3 weeks because COVID was a concern, and now that's been cancelled. So things keep coming up. Do I think full-time is a good idea? I don't believe so. And I don't think it'll happen, to be honest with you, because they don't want to pay us enough money to do it. essentially, I think that's what it will come down to, is it's just cash. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Smitty. I think Smitty just wanted to ask the question so he could put his jumper on the screen.
Hey, Lee, Barry Lewis here.
Barry, yeah.
Are you full-time AFL? Can you go, would you be in a chance of, say, getting finals at SNFL or not?
No, not anymore. So it used to happen, but then we got sick of Richard Williams doing it every year. So Shane canned that rule, which I think is good. Like, to be honest, I won't umpire a Sandford game all year, so I don't think it's fair that I could come back and do Sandford finals.
Yeah.
So
Good.
no, short answer is no.
Yeah, good point. But I certainly saw you umpire some very, very good SNFL grand finals.
Thank you.
Yep, he was a star, and there was a few of us that thought he should have got to AFL sooner than he did. In fact, Lee, probably worth pointing out exactly what allowed you to get the opportunity to be on the list in the first place. So you got a bit of luck in the end, didn't you?
Yeah. So end of 2016, I did the grand final in 2016 and went to the AFL sort of not camp, but their trial process. And they came back and there was 2 spots. And I thought, to be honest, I was a certainty, or I'd be that, like, I should be on. And they didn't choose me, which, it was a bit disheartening. And basically at the end of that, I sort of told them what I thought. And they asked me, what do you plan? They basically said I wasn't going to umpire AFL football. And I said, oh, that's okay. I'll do another however many Sandford grand finals and make you look stupid. And I don't know if that resonated with them or what. But then in January, sort of the following year, so 3 months later, Jordan Bannister retired really abruptly. Like, nobody expected it because of work opportunities outside of footy. And so they needed to put someone on, and they gave me a crack. So I certainly didn't think I was getting on ever at one for a few months there, that's for sure. And then it sort of all just happened real quick. So, yeah.
Also worth pointing out, your sister is a very talented footballer, and tell us a little bit about her. Some of the guys would actually have umpired her. Yep.
So my sister's the captain for South Adelaide in the women's. She doesn't have Horson as a surname anymore. She's Ellie Haylock. First year as captain. They've won a few flags in the last couple of years. So fingers crossed they can get one this year as a captain. That'd be pretty cool. I'm a big South Adelaide fan in general. So, I watch most of the men's games and pretty much every women's game every weekend. So the digital stream's pretty handy for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she won the Div 3 medal. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. Is that right?
Flinders Uni.
Yeah.
Yep. Playing for the Crabs. So, that was quite an honour. She was a very good netball player and then sort of came over to footy late. So, sort of ball skills sort of transferred over. So she's pretty handy from the get-go. Yeah.
Very good. Anyone else want to unmute themselves and ask Lee a question? We've got about 10 minutes left on the Zoom.
I'll go next.
Okay.
You mentioned, Lee, that
Paul. Yep.
The North Melbourne Adelaide game last year was one of the easiest you've done because there was no crowd. How do you find umpiring in front of a big crowd and your communication with the other umpires and players?
Yeah, so comms is really easy because we've got the match comm, our earpiece in our ear. So our number one thing with comms is to remain calm and talk to players like we're talking now. So as soon as we get shouty or screamy, they don't like that. So essentially the only time you're allowed to shout is to get a player's attention. And then as soon as they come back on the mark or, as soon as you've got them to do what you need them to do immediately, then you must drop your voice back to like a conversational tone. So we talk about talking to them as if you're chatting to a mate in the bar, like try to make it as calm as possible. What was the other part? Oh, the crowd noise. No, you want to umpire in front of a crowd every time. It got pretty boring some of the games last year. Like you're itching to get an Adelaide game where they could have crowds. It's just like anything. I'm sure you guys are the same. You want to umpire the big games every week. Obviously, that's not the case, but you always want to do the big games. Yeah.
Worth pointing out, Paul is currently umpiring Sandford W. Lee, a guy that just asked the question. You might see him. He's bit of a chance to get Sample W finals. So there you go.
Very good.
Someone else want to come on and ask?
Yeah, I'll ask a question. Do you ever have any doubt of like the decision you've just made, or just like ask yourself the question of, did I make the right call?
Great question. So Jacob is one of our new umpires, Lee, and that's a great question, Jacob.
Yeah, that's the most important thing as an umpire, is to be able to go, yes, I've made a correct call, or yeah, I've made an error, and be able to move on. Because if you dwell on it and it leads to, another error, like it can compound pretty quickly. So you could be umpiring really well and one error turns into 3 errors and you've had a pretty average game. So obviously having the earpiece, if it's a call that everybody knows straight away is going to, cause some conjecture, our coach will jump in our ear and say, yep, correct, or no, you've made an error. I ask them to tell me the truth. I don't care. Some people don't want to hear about it, but yeah, for me, they know that my preference is just to know so I can move on as quickly as possible. So they will come on and tell me straight away. Yeah, which helps a lot. I find it helps anyway. Yeah.
I used to have a little technique of when I realised I made an error, just give myself a leg slap and then move on. It was just like, you just acknowledge, yep, you mucked up.
Colin would come off the ground with bruises on his legs.
Hey, you funny man. Why did I invite you onto this thing? But Jacob, great question, because I know in your first year, that's something that you're really having to deal with.
The one thing I will say is, if you've got something wrong, I mean, I don't know if Colin would suggest this, but for us, we know pretty quickly. Oh, look at the screen. Oh God, I've got that one wrong. I'll apologise to them. So like, I'll just say to them, look, I didn't see it like that. Sure, it was a high tackle or whatever, and I'll just say it to them. It helps the players move on, and they're not going to be at you all day. Or otherwise, if you've got it right, it's hard not to gloat sometimes, but you just, you tell them, I saw it this way. If it didn't happen like that, I apologise, but this is how I saw it. And then hopefully that helps you get on with it and the players get on with the game.
Yeah, great advice. Someone else, James, you're up next.
Yeah, I've just got a question, Lee. Thanks, James. Here, probably revealing a bit of something that I'm working on as well. Rituals that you might do before the game or even during the game that just maintain focus, especially when you're the non-controlling umpire. I have a reasonably stressful job, and sometimes on Saturday I'm still running over little things from outside footy that pop into my head, and I've been meaning to ask in coaching sessions. So maybe Colin or Lee yourselves might have little techniques to stay in the game in your head.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a little bit easier to stay focused at AFL level, to be perfectly honest, because you've just got so much shit you have to worry about and so much stuff to do. But I do know, coming through the grades, when I was losing focus, I would make sure all I'd tell myself is just be really good on your skills. So whether that was running to the right position every time, or focusing on, exactly, squaring off to every mark. And it's just those real simple things. But if you're focusing really hard on them, you kind of, I don't know, it took that space away out of my mind. It was just, how do I get the next skill or the next thing you can control right?
And I actually think the umpire system, if you do exactly what Lee just said there should be no time during a game where you're switching off, because even if you're the other umpire not in control, you need to be moving to be a kick away from the play. You need to be watching players, away from the ball as number two. And so I think with the 3 umpire system, sometimes at SANFL level, where you're up the end zone and nothing much is happening, it's quite easy to lose concentration. But in our games where we're all 2 umpire system, you really need to be switching on the whole time.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? We've got about 5 minutes left, and then we've got to sign off.
I've just got a quick one. You were saying that your coach is in your ear whenever you get something right or wrong. Does he do much coaching throughout the game? Just general what you can improve on or anything throughout it? And also, when you were saying that you will tell them that you apologize if you get something wrong, Has that ever been picked up? Because I could see that being something that the media would take and run with quite aggressively, with umpires admitting they're wrong.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's a good point. You at AFL level, once you've done it for a little while, you're very in tune as to when they're going to focus on you and when you're not. So you would know, like you pay deliberate, that they're going to look at you, that sort of thing. So you can take a moment, and if you wait sort of 10, 15 seconds after a goal, they're already at an ad break. So you can talk then. So that's easy. What was the first part of your question? Sorry.
Whether your coach is coaching you throughout the game rather than
only after a goal, never sort of live in play. The other thing they can do is they can isolate, so they're just talking to me, not the others. So if you are, say, far end zone, they could chirp in your ear something. Yeah.
I've got a question. I actually really do admire AFL umpires for everything they have to deal with. And one of the things you've obviously had to deal with this year is the stand rule, the interpretation there. And what I saw as being a huge challenge is we're always taught to keep most of your vision, 90% of your vision on the player with the ball. And now all of a sudden you've got a fair bit of focus that needs to be the player on the mark. So how have you found that change?
Yeah, it's the biggest change I've had, just because there's just so many things going on. You're looking at the player of the footy, and then, the guy on the mark's cribbed the slightest bit, or, you're focusing, you flick back to the guy on the mark and the guy with the ball's moved around. So that's it's a really strong point for your teammates to help you out. So if you're in the mid zone and you've got stand set up, a teammate on either side will tell you if the guy plays on and sort of things like that. Because you just can't see everything. It's crazy. I've only paid $150 for stand so far, and it was shit. It was it was horrible because I think Rankin didn't stand. Isaac Rankin was moving back, and I'd called him to stand, and then I pinged him 50, and technically it was correct, so it got ticked off. But I certainly wouldn't do it again. If I had my time over, I would just let him run out of the area. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't had a few more errors, to be honest, because it's tough. Yeah,
I actually think because the fact that it has had such a positive impact on the game, people are much more accepting of it than perhaps they would have if it wasn't seen so positive, having such a positive impact. Yeah. All right, probably got a chance for one or two more questions.
I've got a question more on a sort of comical form, but in those AFL games, you've got cameras everywhere and all sorts of angles. So when what do you do? Like when every umpire has sort of a sarcastic way of giving lip back to the players. So what do you say to them when they go, look up at the screen and you've got it wrong, mate? What's your comeback?
Well, sometimes the best thing is to ignore them. You can just ignore them and pretend you don't hear. I can always point to my earpiece like I can't hear what they're saying, and they're 2 meters away from me. Like, clearly I can hear what you're saying, mate, but I'll just say I can't hear, or something like that. But yeah, you got to be very careful. If you can get a quip in, and I like to do that, I will. But you got to be real careful because, like you say, everything's mic'd up. So the last thing you want to do is come across as a smart ass, because you'll certainly get in trouble for that. Yeah.
Okay. Then AFL would have worked for me back in the day. Okay, good.
Andre, you'd be a star at AFL level, but they would love you more than Ray Chamberlain.
Oh, no. This is actually a good gig, getting an AFL umpire on here. Very intriguing. Yeah. But is there a little bit of lift, and is there a bit of comic relief amongst the players as well? I know you have to be diplomatic out there, but I'm sure, a little bit of banter between players and
it still goes on, definitely. We just want to make sure that you got to also be aware that only you are the one that's getting heard on the camera. Does that make sense? So sometimes you can say something quite comical and nobody knows what you're talking about because you can only hear me, you can't hear the interaction. It's just being careful and sort of being really aware of what you've said and what how it's going to be seen by the broadcasters, really. Yeah.
Oh, gee. Lee, you would have loved it back in the 70s and 80s when you could say what you want and give it.
Yeah, I certainly would have.
I've got a quick one, Colin.
We've actually got to run out of time, Darren. I'm sorry. The Zoom is it's actually about to run out. I'm about to get cut off. So we're going to have Curtis Dubois, Eleni Gluftus, and Craig Fleer on. So if you got
Craig's the worst. He's so boring.
I'll let him know you said that. They've agreed to come on, so we'll get more AFL umpires on, and you can ask your questions there. I just want to thank you very much, Lee, for coming on. Really appreciate your time. It's been a great interest, and we can't thank you enough.
No worries, anytime.
So, Darren, if there was something you particularly wanted to me to ask, have a go. You've got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, what numbers, Lee? That's all. Did you want to look out for him?
5.
Okay, thanks.
That was an easy one. If I knew it was that short. Yeah, so yeah, look out for Lee. He's done incredibly well, and he'll be around for a while yet. So thanks, guys. We'll look forward to seeing you on Wednesday night at training, and we'll be on the Zoom again next Monday night.